What's up, WEBTOON? I'm Mark, and I'm back with another reaction, another Illustrator reaction. Well, before I get there, so I am a American mangaka, or a illustrator that creates manga. Right now, I'm working on a webtoon that will be out very, very soon. There is a preview in the link below if you want to check that out, and we will let you know as soon as the very first episode drops, along with the ones that come after. But okay, so where were we? So I did a video on the channel where I reacted to Garnt, aka Gigguk, Eminence in Shadow. Now, before that video, I had only heard murmurs about Eminence in Shadow, and it's an isekai, and I'm not an isekai fan, but I've tried to like isekai. I've watched some of Sword Art Online, some of No Game No Life. There's other things in there that I just can't remember at the moment, but personally, isekai just never hooked me. Anytime I've ever watched it, it just never really hooked me. So I'm not gonna say isekai is bad, but I just personally don't like it. But we're gonna be reacting to another video from Gigguk titled "Isekai is Great," actually. So maybe he can convince me even more that isekai is actually great. And I'm just being a little and I need to just sit there, watch some isekai, and love it, cause it's great.
Art, I don't want to alarm you. Gigguk is talking about Isekai again. In the beginning, there was darkness, and then God said, boom, let there be light. So he created Sword Art Online. This happened in the prehistoric era of 2012. By now, we all know the origin story of the modern isekai genre and how it's come to saturate the anime market. It's been almost a decade since the initial isekai boom, so you'd think after all this time, audiences would finally start to get bored, and yet somehow we don't seem to be getting less, we seem to be getting more. So that begs the question, if you're not watching isekai, and you're not watching isekai, and you're not watching isekai, then who's watching all the isekai?
Well, I'm sure he's gonna explain it to me, but from what I can see, at least today, you know, this was made a year ago, but at least today, the light novel genre in Japan is booming right now. So many different light novels are being pumped out, and they're all isekai style. Well, not all of them, but many of them are isekai genre based, and also a lot of them are based on video games. So I think a lot of those readers are pushing the industry to make more isekai. But we'll see what Garnt has to say.
Hi, it's me. I watched a lot of isekai last year, and I know I've played my part in giving the genre the image that it has, but I honestly think that the genre might be on the path to a brighter future. Oh, don't mind me just taking my daily dose of copium. I think 2021 was one of the strongest years for isekai for, like, possibly the history of isekai.
Really?
And, like, I thought we all agreed that the genre was already stale like 5 years ago. So today I
thought
I'd break
yeah.
down just what's going on with isekai today, why I think it's here to stay, and the number one thing I still absolutely hate about the genre. Spoiler alert, it's not what you think it is. I swear to God, this isn't Stockholm Syndrome the video, alright? It's no secret that isekai doesn't really have the best reputation among anime fans, and I absolutely see why. The same bland, overpowered protagonist being transported or reincarnated or summoned to that same RPG world with the same harem living the same self-insert power fantasy. The isekai genre...
Is that why I don't like it? Did he just explain out all my feelings in a nutshell? Maybe he did, but you know, I think it might have something to also do with when they go to that other world usually is supposed to be the thing that, like, you're really immersed in, and you're like, oh, I feel like I'm a part of it, and you want to root for their problems. There's usually some type of issues going on there, something that the main protagonist has to, like, intervene and maybe fix, or something like that. I usually don't care that much about those other worlds. I don't know why. It might just be because the stories that take place sometimes aren't as strong as they could be, you know. Because I can care about other worlds, you know. Forget Earth. Nobody cares about Earth. Nobody cares about the living world. I like other scenarios, other settings and stuff like that. But make me care about Fantasyland.
definitely went through an extended phase where we got some shit. Like, a lot of shit. Like, uh-oh, stinky, poopy. Sure, there were outliers that stood out, but a lot of us got bored of the scene very quickly.
Is that slime?
If you ever wondered why it was ever like this, then you have one place to blame. Sure, Setsuninado. Users can post their own web novels for others to read, kind of like the YouTube of light novels. ReZero, Slime, Soma Spider, Overlord, Mushoku Tensei, Shield Hero, Konosuba.
All light novels.
There's an Isekai, big or small, that's come out in the last 10 years, it's probably come from here. So when I'm talking about modern Isekai, what I'm really referring to is Nadoke, or stories that have come from this one site. And if you look at the stories that have been adapted from here, you'll basically see how much it's had an effect on the modern Isekai culture. If you've ever wondered why a lot of modern light novel adaptations feel so fucking homogenous, Isekai or not, it's probably because the source material originated from here. And if I'm allowed to put my tinfoil hat on for a moment and speculate based on other sites with user-generated content, all of this kind of makes sense. Remember when Casey Neistat started posting and then every YouTuber vlog needed to be a Casey Neistat style video? Or when Mr. Beast blew up and then everyone to this day is still trying to market their videos like a cheap copy of Mr. Beast? Well, imagine the same kind of influence between creators being permeated through an entire generation of web novel.
Tens of thousands of customers wrote about Carvana being smooth and their
authors on a single site, and suddenly you understand why a lot of isekai and fantasy stories feel like they are copying from each other. Why do light novel titles sound so fucking dumb? Well, because they are literally clickbait to get users to click on their story.
I literally have had this conversation hundreds of times with my partner, and some of the light novel titles are just ridiculous. Not only ridiculous, but they're long. We even thought about making a video about if we could tell if something was made up or if it was the actual real light novel title. Let us know if you want to see that video, actually.
Like you see with YouTube videos. Except imagine if our YouTube videos get turned into professionally published works and you're stuck with titles like I got addicted to VTubers and regret everything. Honestly, that's all that title for a light novel. Content creators will naturally gravitate towards the type of content they see doing well no matter what platform they're on. It's something we see with any site. YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Does that excuse the amount of mediocrity that's come from there? No, but it does give a bit of an insight into why so many isekai were made and sets the stage for the state of the genre today. Recently, it really feels like isekai anime being adapted has finally started to find its own footing, and we're moving past the point where shows were defined by a single cheap gimmick. Well, we're in another world, except this guy has a smartphone, and this guy has a mum, and this guy has a vibrator. Instead, more often, I think...
What was that, y'all?
Has a smartphone, and this guy has a mum, and this guy has a vibrator.
Okay, that's an edit. I thought that was a part of the show. I'm about to say, yo, what anime is that, y'all? For research purposes.
Instead, more often, I think we're seeing actual interesting concepts that get explored in more depth, like people are starting to realize that audiences want more than just the same power fantasy show with some dumb fuck gimmick. Slime Season 2 took its premise and then fully leaned into becoming a civilization-type city builder where Rimuru actually encounters problems he can't just solve with force, makes hard decisions, makes mistakes, and then fully suffers the consequence of it. World's finest assassin said, let's isekai John Wick. If you take someone who's already skilled and powerful in the real world, how would he use his skills and knowledge to break the systems presented in the fantasy world? What happens when it got isekai is more than one person to get the job done? What would the majority of people do? Realist Hero takes a really interesting look at what happens if we take modern psychology and apply it to governing a medieval fantasy setting. Machiavellianism, game theory. Eventually in the manga it gets to the point where we're using examples from the Cold War, capitalism, fighting communism. The main character takes lessons we've learned from our own history and applies what has historically worked for us in another world.
Boring. No, play. Play, y'all. So it sounds like there are isekai that are trying to basically look at the genre the way it is now and basically say, okay, what is the genre lacking? Let's do some of that, you know, which is dope. It definitely sounds super interesting to me.
These are just some of the interesting ideas I came across with the shows this year, and many of them, aside from the basic premise and setting, explored totally different subjects and ideas. Like now, just because you see several isekai airing in a single season, that's no indicator that the shows will actually have anything in common with each other. Mushoku Tensei, Re:Zero, My Next Life as a Villainess, Sentence of a Bookworm, Restaurant in Another World. These are all isekai set in your traditional fantasy world that are completely independent of each other in plot, tone, characters, and appeal. I've Been Killing Slimes for 300 years has more in common with Dragon Maid than it does with the other isekai with slime in the title. Is there still a lot of garbage being made? Yes, but it's no longer as relevant to look at a new show and say, it's not like your typical isekai, because a lot of isekai are no longer like your typical isekai. Isekai could just become a staple of anime the same way that high school is. There are hundreds, if not thousands of anime shows set in high school, but that doesn't mean that any two shows are going to have anything in common with each other. If anything, I just wish these shows put in a little bit more effort to at least look more distinct. You look at some genres in anime and you're like, damn! All of these have such distinct style and feeling.
One of the biggest things I love about modern anime today is that growing up watching 90s anime, a lot of shows you couldn't really tell what you were watching. It always looked the same, had a similar vibe to it. But I love a lot of 90s anime, but it's the truth. But today there's a lot of anime that does look very similar, where you can't tell the difference. But there's also very many artists and studios that have a distinct look. So at least when you're watching certain studios, you go, oh, that's Studio Trigger, oh, that's Studio Mappa, or that's Madhouse, or that's Studio Period, or, you know, Toei. A lot of times you can tell, not just with the studios, but even with the mangaka. Take the artist of Demon Slayer, or the artist of One Punch Man, or My Hero Academia. All those art styles are completely different, and if you set characters side by side, you know that they're from different shows.
To them, and then you look at Isekai and you're like,
They're the same picture.
it's like every show
I'm gonna
is
take
still
that
into
back.
them, and then you look at Isekai and you're like,
Holy... Yeah, those are the same guy.
They're the same picture.
it's like every show is still using the same two character designers with the same fucking color palette that just
Black
melds
hair.
into one conglomeration of generic mess that makes it impossible to discern any of these shows at just a glance. But you know what? Baby steps. At this point, Isekai is just comfort food for me. Sometimes it is still the same copy and paste show. Yes, there is still a lot of trash out there, but more often now you'll find these neat little ideas packaged into the same familiar formula you've seen that will make you take a step back and think, huh, that was actually pretty damn fun. I'm not saying Isekai has suddenly turned over a new leaf, but what I'm saying is in 2021 it didn't feel as cheap.
I'll say No Game No Life does stand out to me, from what I did see of it. And I think Slime, it's been a minute since I've seen Slime, so I don't, maybe not Slime, but No Game No Life off the top of my head I think that looks pretty unique in terms of like the colors and, you know, how they choose to do the line work.
Anymore, and there was more variety than ever for a genre that is apparently all the same. I do think it still has one massive problem,
What's
but
that?
it's just not the one everyone seems to complain about. Because
that?
to me, the one biggest thing I wish would change is that there needs to be an isekai that has an ending. In almost a decade of the genre, I don't think I've seen a single one come to a conclusion, and it's kind of getting to me. Pretty much the only ones I could think of are shows that came before the modern boom. Or
Is that the anime's fault, or is that the light novel's fault? Does the light novels not have endings to them, or did the anime just not adapt enough of the light novel?
of them. Even the so-called much, the only ones I can think of are shows that came before the modern boom. All of them. Even the so-called good ones don't feel like they've gotten anywhere close to being finished. No Game No Life, more like no Season 2 no more. Overlord? Yeah. Overlord of half a fucking kingdom. Rising of the Shield Hero? Yeah, this is more like the slight incline of the Shield Hero. Re:Zero? More like zero chance of ever seeing this end. Okay, that was awful. My problem with modern isekai isn't that they are bad. is that they're so damn disposable. We start with one isekai, have a bit of fun, and then just move on to the next one, and then forget about all of them. It feels like a lot of the times writers come in with a single interesting idea, explore it, and then have no idea where to go, so the readers lose interest or the writer just stops. I've seen so many heroes journeying to take on a demon lord, and not a single one has ever reached his doorstep. There doesn't feel like there's anything close to a complete story, and instead of focusing on finishing one, it feels like the focus for anime is making 6 more. And because of this, nothing has any staying power. We don't see any stories reach their maturity, and because of this, it becomes so vapid. Mushoku Tensei, Re:Zero, Overlord, it's series like these where you can see the foundations being laid for a full-blown tale. There is depth, there is characters, there's a thought-out world behind it. It feels like these shows are actually trying to tell a full story rather than coming in with a few interesting ideas and fucking off. Re:Zero just spent an entire fucking season in one place so they could say, hey, let's have Subaru stop dying so cheaply, let's make Amelia an actual character. And while lots of people may have found the slow progression boring, I respect the fact that I had the confidence to spend the time to really flesh out sides of these characters we never got to see in season 1. And Mushoku Tensei is, well, you already know how I feel about Mushoku Tensei. If there was a show that could lead the charge for all the changes I wanted to see, this could be it. Because unlike most other isekai, the source material is already done. Yes, it has a fucking ending. So I hope to God that these types of shows will get the chance to fully follow through with the story they want to tell. Like your Attack on Titans, My Hero Academias, and Demon Slayers, they get the seasons, all the seasons they rightfully deserve. Because I don't feel like we're even close to reaching the peaks these stories could tell. And I think it's only when we do get the chance to see some of these peaks that isekai can start being taken more seriously. I think this is the one thing single-handedly stopping isekai from eating at the big boys table, where we don't have to feel like pointing at these shows we like and say, no guys, this is a good show for an isekai, and instead just saying, no guys, this is just a good show. In conclusion, isekai will never die. He just gets reincarnated into another
Wow. Alright, interesting video. Love Garnt. My thoughts after watching that video is, I think the reason why isekai isn't, as Garnt put it, you know, considered with the big, you know, boy anime or girl anime, however you want to call it, I think it's just isekai anime has different goals, and people who like isekai, they have different expectations. People who love isekai, they'll love a show even though it doesn't do certain things that bigger mainstream shows might do, and that's what they like about it. This is isekai, and if you don't like it, then it's just not ever gonna be for you. But I do think I want to give Mushoku Tensei a try. But let me know what you thought of this video, guys. Let me know what you thought of Garnt's video. Comment below if you have anything to say about isekai. Click here, click there if you want to see any more reactions, and I'll see you next time.